Hi,
Hello.
it's Kat from Chatting with Kat with my guest.
Liz from Casito Bay, Recipes for Your Munchies.
But in reality, if you're looking at this on her channel, then I'm her guest.
Yes.
So, you'll see this on both guests. So today, Liz is going to be talking about her experience with something called LandMark forums. We're going to go ahead and link the website down to the down in the description box, so you can go ahead and investigate for yourself. This one 3.5 day, 4-day seminar costs $6.95 per person.
Yes.
And Liz is going to go ahead and tell you her experience.
So I had a friend who was trying to get me to do it, and I was like, I don't know yet. And I ended up going to one of her last night, the half night, and I was like, okay. She sponsored me and some other friends, and so that's how I got into it. I guess I'll talk about before going to LandMark. I had gone through a period of like self-reflection, and I sort of like realized some things about myself, like, oh, this is why I do the things that I do, like sort of like what was causing me to like have anxiety, and like why I had the personality that I had. Like basically, like my mom died when I was really young, about 8 years old, and as a result of that, it was like the worst thing that had happened in my life, and I didn't want to feel that ever again. So as a way to kind of like avoid that, I became kind of like, I wanted to control like the situation. I was always kind of prepared for like the inevitable, like worst case scenarios.
You wanted to control which situation?
Situations
in general, life in general?
Sort of like to be like the leader of like a group and like kind of
Be the one to navigate and be in control.
Kind of, yeah.
Okay.
So I felt safe. Like that's how I felt safe, because like I was in control and I knew like what I was capable of, kind of thing. It also led to like a fear of failure, making mistakes, because failure and mistakes like would lead to feeling bad, basically. Which is like, I know it's bullshit now, like looking back on it, because we make mistakes and have failures because that's how we learn. It's not like a bad thing. It's just like it's more like a necessary thing, and it's not that big of a deal.
And you know, I understand where that feeling and emotion comes from, because it's pretty much recently that we've been being told failures, and pretty much by people like Bill Gates, who failed until finally he made Microsoft.
Right.
And if you look at any entrepreneur out there, or anyone in anything that's successful, they'll tell you flat out, I had to fail 1 million times before I had my one success. So we're still brainwashed though. You know, oh my god, if I fail, I'm a failure.
Yeah. And there's also like perfectionism ties into that, which was what I was kind of going through. And basically everything, all of this was tied into like me trying to avoid like bad things happening and the bad feelings that come with it. So I realized all this before going in, but I always felt like there's something else going on that's keeping me stuck, and it's like keeping me from like moving forward. Like I want to do all these things, but I feel like I'm not progressing and moving forward. Like you said, sort of like 5,000 petals to move like an inch.
Yeah, so we were discussing this a little bit before, because I wanted to have an idea of where she wanted to go. And it's kind of like that whole rat race thing, where you're just constantly spinning your wheels, either not going anywhere, or if you're advancing, you're really just advancing microscopically. Not enough to be noticeable in your own life, and pretty much self-defeating.
Yes. So I guess that like ends on that. So basically, that's what I was bringing into LandMark. And during the seminar, it's 3 days, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday. They're 13-hour days. You get breaks, you get lunch, you can go to the bathroom. Like you don't have to ask anyone. You can like stretch around. But
so typical seminar
thing. Basically the seminar is just, there's a lot of sharing going on. People are talking about like their traumatic experiences. This is how I'm feeling stuck. This is like what's bugging me, like what's going on. And so LandMark is the session leader there, kind of like talks everyone through it and says like, we're all basically the same. Like you can even see it, like people share their experiences. A lot of them will have similar experiences of like shared trauma. There's like sexual abuse, there's like divorce, like love problems, like sort of problems with their businesses, self-confidence. It runs the gamut. But you start to hear like, oh, you see yourself in other people basically, and you start to see like, we're all the same, like, because this is happening across different genders, cultures, religions, classes, like all of that. Like, we're all having these same feelings, and like we're experiencing similar situations.
And didn't you find that in that environment you sort of created a safety net, a bonding and community?
Absolutely, because like before it, we're all just kind of like, you're sitting side by side and it's like 120 people and you're just kind of not really talking at first. But then by like the first break, like you're talking to people, like you don't even know their names yet, but you're talking as if you're like your best friends. And it's really weird. But it's really nice, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, oh, like it breaks down the barrier sort of thing. And it like makes you feel comfortable, like talking with strangers. And sort of like realizing like, oh, you know, like I see you and like I understand kind of thing.
Right.
And it just makes the interaction like more pleasant and friendly, and like, oh, this person's not an asshole, you know, like.
And you're comfortable to be you because that environment is created as an environment without judgment.
Absolutely.
It's a safe zone, and I know what you're talking about because we had the same thing in my communications class, and it's just funny how when you end up in a situation like this, in an environment like this, if you pay attention to what's happening there versus what's happening outside, we've pretty much lost our sense of community.
Yeah.
And having been an ex-member of a community, you didn't even have that type of community in that environment that I'm speaking of, which I will elaborate on later, in this type of scenario, in the scenario that we had in our communications class, because you end up becoming, in that short amount of time, a family.
Yes.
And it's crazy. And I'm not talking about, what do they call it, a dysfunctional family?
Yeah.
I'm talking about a nurturing, loving family where you can bear all. Vulnerability is the key. Here I am, accept me. And they do. They embrace you. They love you for who you are. No judgment. It's beautiful.
So there was all of that. Vulnerability, guards nowhere. For me, like in a room of like 120 people, like I don't like crying in front of everyone. I don't like crying, period. But like 30 minutes into like the first day, I was like already crying. I was just like, fuck. All right.
It's there.
Yeah, it's like,
stop. How do I turn it off?
I know. I was like, all right. Like I going out, I was like, I had been like told beforehand, like, yeah, everyone pretty much cries basically at something. There's like a handful of people that don't. But basically, it's just like I had to like get it out and just like release it so that I had room to kind of like, okay, get to like the heart of the matter kind of thing.
And you know, it's funny because we were talking about this when she was sharing her experience with me. And I, like just about all of you, don't like crying in front of other people. I mean, usually if it's someone that you trusted, like your mother or your father or your brother or someone, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, whoever, that's usually about the only person that you're willing to cry in front of until you come into a situation like this where, again, it's that feeling of safety. It's that feeling of no judgment. And the sad part about that is we know, okay, my father used to tell me crying is actually, it takes a strong person to cry. Even though society in its various devious ways, and I have to say devious because it is, tells us crying is weak. You cannot evolve or get past things unless you cry, because it's basically an emotional vomit.
Yeah.
And after that cry, you liberate and you're free. Not to say that you should be crying all the time, but whenever you need to cry,
just go cry.
Kind of like what she's going to tell you right now, you have to cry.
Yeah.
You can't go, yeah, I'm not going to cry right now.
Because then it just holds it in, it doesn't like release it, and you just keep it
bitter.
You keep carrying it around.
Yes, and it becomes this huge boulder.
And you don't need to carry that.
There's no reason to. And it's funny how it takes things like this for us to realize what we should already know, one, and what we should be practicing. But let her continue because it's pretty amazing.
Okay. So let's see.
Crying.
Crying. Yes, I needed to cry because I deny myself that. But like in the crying, I'll kind of get to a little bit. But basically, I started hearing my little voice of like what my blind spot was, like what was the thing that I didn't know was causing me to feel stuck. And like when I heard it, I was like, holy shit, dude, like that's what it is.
And revelation.
And sort of like the crying just became this whole release and like liberation of like, oh my god, like, okay, I get it. And it's after it happened, it's sort of like, fuck, like why did it take like all these years and like all this bullshit and this expensive ass seminar to like get to this point? Like, how was I not able to like figure this out before? Because it seems so easy, like after the breakthrough. It's like, oh, okay. It's like,
can I inject on this one?
yes.
It actually is very easy, but again, our world today and the way that we have created it has caused us to have so many distractions and so much busy work that we don't allow ourselves self-reflection. It is that simple. If you notice in my previous videos, I kept saying, you gotta learn to check in with yourself. You have to learn to check in with yourself. You have to learn to listen to that still small voice. For those of you that have actually gotten into the artist way, finding your inner child, that's what you have to tap into. And that's how you can avoid these huge areas of blockage and conflict that basically leave you motionless. You think you're going places, but you're not. That part of you is stopping you from so many amazing things, but you can't see it because you're not looking inward. That easy. Look inward.
And I think to kind of like piggyback off of that, it's sort of like having the tools to do that, basically. And that's kind of what the forum did. It was kind of like helping you to understand what the tools are and like helping you to like learn how to use them so that like afterwards you can, you know, keep it up kind of. And I'll talk about it a little bit more, like how like afterwards you definitely get this like whole euphoric feeling of like, oh my god, I get it, and like you feel a sense of peace and calm, and then like afterwards like you start to come down from it kind of thing. But going into the tools, one of the things like after like going through it, I realized I had, sorry, let me rephrase. I had two breakthroughs, basically. One was on the second day, and another one was on the third day. The first one was basically realizing, like, after I had, like, dug deeper, I realized, like, the root cause, or, like, the root problem was that...
issue.
The root issue is, like, because I lost my mom, I was afraid that I was gonna lose like my dad, my brother, people who were gonna like take care of me, people who cared for me, people who loved me. I started attaching that feeling to other people in my life outside of family that I really cared about. I was really afraid of like losing them, and at the heart of it, I was afraid of like being alone and like not feeling loved. And like in like one of the exercises we were doing, like I like was like really crying. And like I started hearing the little voice of like, you're afraid to be alone. But the joke is that like if everyone on the planet like died except for you, you're not gonna be alone because you have yourself. You're still gonna feel love because you love yourself. And you're gonna be fine. And I was like,
oh my god!
I know. It was like I'm even like. My voice is just like...
It's okay. She's going to get emotional. Some of you are going to get emotional because this is a really, really, really deep topic.
It is such like a profound like, oh my god, like this is what my problem has been this whole fucking time. This is what I didn't know that I didn't know. Kind of, it's been so buried under so much stuff that I was just like...
And I kind of hate to call, even though I may refer to it without realizing it as a problem, I don't like calling things like that problems because it's not a problem. It's a goddamn blockage. It is a thing that you are not aware of consciously because it's a subconscious problem that you have locked away. And again, checking in. Checking in. And it's neat because I hope you don't mind me. Okay. They gave her tools at LandMark. I personally have my own tools that I had to use. But the tools that I'm using are teaching me that the only tool that I need is to connect to my inner self. And Naval Ravikant mentioned a while ago in a Joe Rogan interview how all he ever did was just meditate and look inward, and that he can do that in a matter of seconds now, and he's fine. And it's like, okay, but I want to go beyond that, which is why I'm doing what I'm doing. But sometimes we need tools to guide us, and that's fine. Go ahead, and then I'm going to say the rest later.
So
Sorry.
my second breakthrough came on the last day, and it was like things we were discussing in the seminar. And one of the understandings that I came to is that there's only ever the present. The past is gone. It's not there anymore. Like you look back, there's nothing there. And the same goes for the future. The future, like people say, it doesn't exist because you're never at the future, you're always in the present. So like our problem is that like our mind is always casting fears into the future, in a future that doesn't even exist.
And it hasn't been written yet.
We dwell on the things in the past, but the past is gone. And it's sort of like there's no point to all of that.
Yeah.
Like you just have to let it go and just be like in the present moment. And you're always gonna have like that voice in your head, because it's like a little machine, you know. It's like it's always gonna be like, well, what about this, or what if this happens, or what if that happens? And it's like your heart beating. Like it's always there, it's always gonna do that. You just have to recognize that and just kind of like take it and be like, I see you, like, you know, I'm gonna cast you away, and like I'm still gonna go do and like take action and move forward, kind of thing.
Right. And what she's a little nervous right now, because this is really, really hard when you're being this vulnerable in front of God knows how many.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
Mm-hmm.
What she's basically talking about in terms of the mind is, it's like I gave her an analogy.
Mm-hmm.
When we don't know how to control our mind, it's basically like having every radio station and TV station on at the same time. You can't hear anything. There's just so much noise. It's basically a clusterfuck in your head.
Yeah.
And if you can't learn to control that and all the stories and false narratives that it's creating, well,
Mm-hmm.
this happened, so this is going to happen, and that's going to happen, and that's my life.
Mm-hmm.
No. Only if you allow it.
Yeah.
So what they taught her, what she means by the past no longer exists, again, if we check in, if we deal with those emotions, if we look at the pain if we look at the situation and go, why is this causing me pain? What can I learn from this? And then let it go, we'll keep hanging on to it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why you have to check in. That's why you have to look and go, why am I being bitchy? Why am I being mean to other people? Why am I angry inside? Why am I wanting to cry? Why? Whatever that why is, look in and find out, because you shouldn't be hanging on to anything. Now, I still have a lot of stuff that I'm working through, so I'm by no means perfect, but this is what we're learning. It's really actually kind of simple, but we make it so goddamn hard because of all the noise and all the bullshit we hear. So I'm really grateful that she did this.
Yeah, and like basically after like those 3 days, there is definitely like a very euphoric high feeling of like, wow, life is fucking amazing.
Liberation.
And, like, it was very weird because it was like, you know, my second breakthrough, like when I realized it, there was so much like peace and like happiness, and my mouth was just like involuntarily like doing this weird like Cheshire cat smile, and I was like, fuck, this is so weird. Like I've never felt this feeling ever before. And like
it's like this crazy ass high, right?
Yeah. And even the next day, it was like I was, you know, just going about my day, and I was like realizing, I was like, holy shit, like this is what it feels like to be fully present.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the day, like I wasn't hearing chatter. I was just like going from like one moment to the next, and just like, I don't know, like there wasn't that bullshit going on in the head of like, you know, people on the road like pissing you off. It was just like, just let it go. And it's like, it doesn't mean anything. It's just like,
isn't that
I don't
amazing?
have to be mad.
Yeah.
And
the normal things that would bother you don't bother you anymore, because you realize how insignificant they really are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But this was like, I want to say I took this in July, so now we're like in August, and like the euphoria's like come down basically, and sort of like I feel like I do have like I have the tendency to like slip back and to like forget like the tools that I learned, but I still like catch myself. I'm like, hold up, like no, like you're making meaning out of something that doesn't even have meaning. You're casting your fears in the future. Like just fucking let it go and just like take action basically to do what you want to do.
And let's pretend that some of the things that come your way and get thrown your way do have meaning.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to accept them. They don't have to be your narrative. They don't have to be your story.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
One of the things that we don't realize is that we are the creators, the producers, the directors, the everything, even the audience of our own story. You don't get retakes. This is it. Kind of like that stupid ass soap opera back in the day, and I'm really gonna. Anyway, what was it? I forgot the name of it, but it was a stupid ass soap opera, like not one day at a time. One Life to Live.
Okay.
Like One Life to Live. You don't get retakes. This is it.
Mm-hmm.
So do what you want to do. Time is slipping constantly. Find out what's holding you back. Find out what your hangups are. Find out what's making you stop moving forward. What's making you stop evolving. I don't believe we have faults. I don't believe we have to change. I believe we should be constantly evolving. I believe that we have quirks that some like, some don't like. I don't believe we have faults. And one of the things that she kind of didn't like about this, she's going to tell you, and there's a solution.
Yeah. I guess I'll start at the top. It basically, like, other people have like felt this too, like in talking about it like afterwards, like there's parts of it where it feels like church without the religion, the talk of God. It's more about like life and kind of like shifting your mindset. But yeah, it's kind of like weird. Like
Preachy.
I'm not gonna say preachy. The church feeling comes from the like how Mormons will experiences like with friends and stuff like that. Like Mormons will like invite them to like a religious event or like, come check it out, come join us.
Pressure and recruitment. And
it's like very weird. So they're like, oh, what are you doing? It's like, oh, so you're free after this time? And it's sort of like they're not respecting your decision to like not go, basically. They're trying to do like this weird salesperson-y like
it's a salesy pitch.
It's a salesy pitch to get you to say yes, and it's like they keep going at it, and it's like I don't like that part.
When a person doesn't have the money, what do they say?
They, like, we support you. It's like a friendship support, but it's not a financial support. And there's no like, oh, let's find someone who will help you pay kind of thing. It's just like it's like it keeps looping around, basically, to get you
to go in.
Just to like put it on your credit card and figure out how to pay for it later kind of thing.
Which I think is the irony in all this, because if that's their model, pay for it and trust that the money will come, then why aren't they giving this away for free, trusting that the money will come? Yeah. They're not really practicing what they preach. They're making you feel guilty for not having the money and trusting the process, a process that you don't even know. A process that may not even work for you, because the only way that it works for you is if you do the work.
Yeah.
So for a lot of these people, and this is what breaks my heart, they probably went into this thinking, oh my God, this is going to change my world and I'm going to be a millionaire and everything's going to be great. But they're not going to do the work when they leave, and they're going to end up back to where they were with no other way to get out of it and no other way to move forward, because the tools that they were given are very basic. Because you were only given a couple of handouts to take home with you that you haven't even really looked at, right? And you're not allowed to take notes, and you're not allowed to record, because of course there's sensitive material, and it has to be a very comforting environment. What they end up doing is they have you keep going back for more, spending hundreds of dollars, even thousands, feeding you little increments.
Yeah, there's like the 3-tier thing, and then they have extra seminars kind of like in between that are like 1 day a week kind of thing, and then there's different like other categories of seminars, like money and like health or whatever.
So here you have to pay for all of these things to learn a process that you're supposed to trust, and yet they're not willing to trust that you can go in this, and then once you make that money, you can pay it forward and pay them back. So that's the only thing that upsets me about this whole thing. I am so grateful that you found a place where you were able to break through and find out what has been holding you back, what's been anchoring you, what's been hurting you, and break free from that. So for that, I praise them. And I love them.
but it's expensive.
Yeah.
And there is, they are a business. They want you to do other seminars. Like they say, like, we don't want you to like stay. We want you to like, go through it and leave and kind of keep applying everything. But yeah, there are like seminar after seminar after seminar, and then there's all these other little ones kind of thing. So it's just kind of like
you're basically sucked in to have to keep on doing it.
You can get a lot out of it. You just have to remember that you don't have to sign up for the next one and the next one. Like, get what you need and like kind of go on your way. Yeah, basically. Because
in other words, be careful and don't get reeled in to spend all your money on something that, again, you still have to do the work.
Yeah.
Bottom line, one of the things that I noticed that, and I know that we're running out of time and we don't want to make this too long. One of the things that I know that a lot of us, and I'm guilty as hell, we want it to happen without having to do the work.
Yeah.
My now ex, 2 hours, 4 hours every day working out his body, no problem. He is depressed beyond depressed. He is unfortunately very negative. He wants to be positive. He's done ayahuasca. He's done a few other things, but he is not willing to put in the work to train and silence his mind, to check in. He used to meditate. He hasn't done it in years, and he doesn't understand why his life is falling out from around him. And we're going to go ahead and discuss that in future videos. Not him, but things that you can do to evolve and get ahead without having to spend, if anything, any money, because there's ways to do it. It's going to take you a little longer, or spending a little money, which there's no affiliate here. We're not getting paid for this, what I'm going to share with you in the next video. And it's remarkable what it can do for you. It's really remarkable. Let's put it this way, as outgoing as I am, without what I've done to get here, I wouldn't be in front of this camera, because I was always the person behind the camera. I was always the one looking for the vulnerability, wow, that's a hard word to say, not willing to expose it.
Yeah.
So we hope that, yes, there was a little negativity said about LandMark in terms of their pricing and their process and their belief.
Yeah, and the recruitment.
And the recruitment. But the end thing is that she did get something. She got 2 huge breakthroughs that she probably wouldn't have gotten without that. And I mean, sometimes what I like about something like this is that it kind of wakes people up and makes them go, wait, there's a way to change? I can actually be a different person?
Yeah.
Yes, you can. And not a different person. You can be the best version of yourself.
It's more like a shift.
Yeah,
rather than
a shift in consciousness,
change.
A shift in mindset. It's never about changing, it's about evolving. It's about being a better you. And I love that. When she told me that this is what happened, I'm like, I don't care who they are. I'm happy that it happened. But let me show you a different way too.
Yeah. Because like you said, the goal is to like look inward and like heal yourself, do the work, and there's a lot of different like paths you can take to do that. Some people go into religion, some people do Tony Robbins and the LandMark Forum, or they do meditation and all that. It's just like
finding your best path.
Exactly. It's like there's no one right one, it's just the one that you like the best.
Yeah, and not necessarily finding your best path, but finding the best tools for you. And we are definitely running out of clock time, so we're going to go ahead and say bye! We hope you really, really enjoyed this. Please, comments in the section, in the comments below. Please please subscribe, and let us know if you want to hear more about this stuff, because this is what we really love.
And check out my channel.
Yes, check out Quesito Bay, which I'm going to link down in the description, and she's going to link me down in the description on her channel too. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Did it do it?
No. We have a remote, which is why you keep on seeing us go.